Hey, good morning. It's reasonably quiet here. A little bit of noise from the cicadas, but I'll see if we can talk over them. Just going to do a bit of a run around on the outside of the van and just some of the construction components about the van. So the van itself is a composite material. So it's a fiberglass sandwich panel, so it's made up of this. You probably can't really see it from here, maybe from the door you get a bit of an idea. So the side walls are about 22mm thick, the floor is 34mm thick, and it's got a fiberglass inside and outside shell. And actually I've got a piece of the floor here, it'll give you a bit of an idea. So this is it here, so that's the floor, 34mm, so fiberglass top, bottom, and then a composite material in the centre of it. So there's no frame in this van, so there's no aluminium frame, no timber frame. It's just a sandwich panel inside. The two sides are sandwich panel. All the holes for windows and doors are CNC cut. The body of the van from front across the roof and down the back is all one piece. So again, no joins, so less chance of dust ingress. So it runs all the way up the back. You can see the curve in the roof and across the roof. And actually, while we're here, we'll go up and I'll show you the real estate up on the roof with all the solar panels. So up here we've got 7 solar panels, a total of 1060 watts. Those little vents you can see over there are the exhaust vents to the fridge and the composting toilet. So there's little fans in those that just run off the 12 volt. Ceiling fan for the shower, there's another fan over in the centre there. This one has a rain sensor on it. And then you've got the skylight up the front, trimmer air conditioner, which works really well. This is the little unit I put up for the Starlink unit. So you can buy this off Starlink's website. I think from memory they're about $89 delivered. I've just put that on with double-sided tape. Actually, we came across a tape in a post office in Alice Springs last year called Alien tape, and I think I've seen it in Kmart too. Fantastic stuff. It's fairly thick. It's double-sided and it sticks to pretty much anything. And you can get it off, like, you know, if you sort of lift this up slowly and then sort of roll it back, it'll come off and it doesn't damage whatever you're sticking it to. So yeah, Alien tape, if you see it, grab some. I think it's about $20 for 3 rolls, but yeah, definitely worth having, especially on a van with lots of smooth surfaces. You can stick tough stuff to it without doing any permanent damage to the van. With our Starlink, I don't run it inside the van. We've got the extra 240 outlet in the tunnel boot. So we just leave the Starlink router in there and then just run the cable to wherever the dish is. At the moment we've got a lot of trees in the area, so the Starlink dish couldn't get reception off the back of the van because of those big trees up there. So I've just got it sitting in the paddock out here and it works fine there. So the thing with this, another thing different between this van and other vans is the tunnel boot is a lot wider and higher. It's 650 wide or 630 wide and 450 high. So you can easily get like a deck chair in there quite flat, and plenty of room in there. So we got a lot of crap in here we don't need, which we'll clean out at some point. But anyway, this front box is also a composite material, so it's extremely light. So the ball weight on this van when we picked it up empty was only 162 kilos. So you actually need to load the front of it up to get a bit of weight onto the back of the car. So we've got a 4-ton GVM and a 7.5 ton GCM on this car, so you need the weight on the back of the car, so loading that up actually makes the van tow beautifully. It's got a DO35 hitch, which most of these vans come with now, and then the breakaway system for if your car disconnects from the van. It'll unplug this and lock the brakes up. Electric jack, that's another thing that I probably wouldn't live without now after having it. We had one on the JB as well, and this just makes life so much easier. Just lift the van up, drop the van down, get it on and off the car with ease. These two boxes at the front there are pretty handy too. This is the tank for the diesel heater, which we still haven't tested because it's been so hot. That's a spot there for a jerry can. I'll just keep all the hoses in this section here. But they've got like water holes in them, so if you get water or dirt or anything in there, that'll just wash out. So that's pretty handy as well. The chassis on this is zone design. It's a gooseneck type setup at the front because the van itself's quite high. Actually, let me find a tape measure and I'll just measure how high it is off the ground. Probably a bit hard now because it's on an angle, but this is the suspension fully lowered on this side. So that's 650 off the ground, fully lowered on that side. This side it's not all the way up, but it's up quite a way. And it's 730 off the ground on that side. So yeah, and that can still go up a bit more on that side there. So one of the benefits of the airbag suspension is that you can just pull up to camp, level yourself from side to side before you disconnect the car, and that's a pretty easy process. So just turn the air compressor on. No, I've got to turn it off on the red arc. This is something you'll have to get used to, is to remember that if you turned it off on the red arc unit, you've got to turn it back on the red arc unit. So we'll turn the air compressor back on here. Actually, I don't know what this is done. Alright, so here's, that's interesting. So this morning when we woke up, that was at 70, I think 73%. It's 9 o'clock now, it's already back up to 77, and I've cooked breakfast using the electric toaster oven and an induction cooktop. So that's not too bad. Yeah, that's the water pump on. Don't need that on at the moment. Sirocco fans I don't need on. I'll leave the ceiling fans on because that's working like a little bit of an exhaust. That's your 3 water tanks. Third one's nearly empty. A little bit in the grey water tank. We had to catch a bit last place we were at and didn't get around to emptying it out. But this guy here is happy for us to just put any grey water we get onto his lawns or his gardens. So we're under the van. One thing about an off-road van is there's plenty of room underneath it. So yeah, if you've got to get underneath it, work on anything, there's a bit more room than there is on a semi-off-road van or an on-road van. So the suspension on this is the Cruise Master ATX airbag suspension. So the airbags are these bellows here. So you can see, because we've got the van on an angle at the moment, the bags are up on this side and down on that side. So 2 trailing arms, really heavy duty construction. You can sort of see just how meaty these suspension components are. Gas strut, again nice and meaty. And the towing quality of this van is fantastic. It just cruises along behind the car. It's sort of like, once we get up to cruising speed in the Land Cruiser, which is about 100 kilometres an hour, it's quite easy to forget the van's there, because it doesn't drag the back of the car around or anything. The old JB van used to rock and roll quite a bit behind the car, but this thing just sits really well on the road, and yeah, really pleasure to tow with. Plumbing's pretty good. One thing that, you know, they probably should have done, but they're not plumbers, is that There's no fall on the plumbing outlets. They've run the 50mm waste pipe from the kitchen sink back to the shower in line with the floor, so unless you tilt the front of your van up, there's no natural fall on the waste pipe. So that means the tendency for water to sit in the pipe is high. So, you know, something you could fix if you really wanted to, but probably just as easy to jack the front of the van up 10mm, and that'll give you enough floor for the water to run out. We put a couple of recovery points on the back of the van too, just in case we drive into a bit of sand and can't get out under our own steam. You've got those rated recovery points for somebody to winch you backwards out of the sand that you got yourself into. Well protected tanks all the way through. They're poly tanks. I think they're 85 litres each, so that's 255 litres of water, and then you've got a grey water tank, which is this one here in the middle. That's got a bypass valve on it, so if you leave that closed, it stops waste going into the grey water tank, and then it just runs straight out of the outlet there. We just run it out onto the grass at the moment. So the door on this is significantly better than the door on our previous van. It's a much stronger construction. It's sort of gets quite a bit of suction through these seals, holds itself in really well. Again, no dust at all in through there. Maybe a tiny bit in at the hinges, tiny bit in there maybe, but yeah, none gets past that seal and into the van. So it's got 4 locking points on there, security mesh, really good quality construction, and then there's tempered glass panel opens and closes. It's just stuck by a magnet up there. The awning on this one is a Aussie Traveller awning. It's a much better awning than the Dometic. From here, but that point up there on the Dometic has this hinge mechanism on it where you can't really get tension on the vinyl at all, whereas this one here you have no problem getting tension on it. So we haven't put any deflappers or anything on that at the moment, so it's been working fine. We haven't had any big winds. If we get a big wind, we'll generally put the awning in or tie it down to the ground. The outdoor kitchen, I had somebody ask me this morning what was the measurement of the table. So the table is 640 by 1615. So good size table. These components here are really handy. This one here we use for all the charging, all the gear. There's a TV mount there if you want to bring the TV outside. Normal cigarette lighter type charger on that side, USBs on this side. So one thing the van manufacturers need to start thinking about is putting in USB-C chargers, because all the new phones and iPads are charging off USB-C, not USB. Although you can get converters, a bit of a pain in the arse. You don't want to have to turn your inverter on just so you can charge your phone. We've got induction cooktop here, fry pan, cutlery, tongs and spatula there. We just keep some bug spray, citronella candles, and I've just got my iPad charging in there at the moment. We've got a fire blanket there. There's a fire extinguisher just above the door inside. I've got another one in the back of the car there as well, and touch wood, haven't had to use those yet. Up the front of the van, the benefit of having the airbag suspension is there is a compressor under the van, and so there's an air hose outlet here if you want to use it to put on a little hose for blowing off dust and things like that. And you do that. The compressor in the van's not really designed to pump up 4 big tyres, but we've got one in the car for that, so that's not an issue. Loads of room in here. We've got a little inflatable boat in there. We've got a printer in there. We've got all sorts of spare parts, extra plumbing gear, a little butane cooker, and it's just thrown in there. We could probably tidy that up a bit and make a bit more room. Same in here, we get tables and chairs and all that in there. We've got the floor mats or ground mats, which we're not using here because it's lovely green grass and no bindi grass. We normally keep a couple of bags, one for recycling gear and another one for rubbish. Rubbish bag we normally put in here on the back of the car, and then empty them once we get to somewhere where there's some bins. There's two hot and cold shower heads that are, so you got one here next to the kitchen. There's a little collapsible sink there that goes in here, and you can adjust that from hot and cold there, and then you can have hot water outside if you want to. Handy enough if you're cooking outside, and you can rinse your dishes off before you take them inside and avoid putting food scraps into your grey water tank if you can. The wheels and tyres on this one are 17-inch rim with the Cooper AT3 all-terrain tyres on it. So they're I think they're a 265 by 70 by 17. So our car has 18-inch rims on it, and I think they're a 285 by 65. So I think that's about it for the outside of the van. We'll get Wendy to do a little bit of a run around on the inside of the van and tell you what she likes about it. I'm really impressed with the construction quality on this van. We bought it to take it off-road. We like going places that are a little bit hard to get to because, you know, there's fewer people there and a bit more to see. So yeah, the Zone Sojourn, it's their, what they call their second generation off-road van. We had an order in for the first generation van, and glad we changed our mind and upgraded to the newer model. It's a really good unit. Expensive, yes they are. They're you can go on Zone's own website and price a van up with all the options for yourself. It's starts off about 132 or 133 grand. By the time you get it up to a good spec, you'll be 160 or 165 grand. But you know, these caravans hold their value. You still see, you know, 5-year-old Zones selling for more than what they actually were new. Did I show you the inside of the electrical cabinet? Oh, that's another thing with these vans too, these locks. So they're double lock, they seal really well, and then you can leave them like that, and then when you're ready to lock them up, you just push them home and they stay locked. So again, this door here's got a little magnet on it, so you can leave it open, don't have to worry about the wind blowing it back on you whilst you got your head in the cabinet. But anything to do with the electrical, you'll find in this cabinet here. There's a good schematic on the back of the door. Basically tells you what everything's connected to. I don't know much about electrics, but I can work out what that's telling me. Fuse box for everything's the fuse for everything. It's all labelled. You've got your battery management system, your solar controller in here, your DC to DC charger. This has got a 3000 watt inverter in it. One thing that I've only just come to understand about inverters is that turning the inverter on, the inverter itself uses a fair bit of power, and the bigger the inverter, the more power it takes to turn itself on and off. So the 3000 watt inverter, it's capable of running the air conditioner, the microwave, the washing machine, toaster, kettle, electric oven, induction cooktop, so it's capable of running all that. But of course when you've got your inverter on, it's draining battery power. We have the Starlink over there, which doesn't take a lot of power itself. Running the inverter takes more power than running the Starlink dish itself. Like I'm sort of estimating it uses about 1% of your battery power per hour. So I had it on for about 6 hours the other day, and it used about 6% of the power. We didn't have much sun out that day either, but even on a day like today with 1000 watts up on the roof, it'll bring the batteries back up probably 1 or 2% per hour. We're not using much in there at the moment. We've got a couple of fans running and the water pump goes occasionally. But yeah, we've been pretty impressed with how quick the batteries come back up so far. I haven't been in Victoria yet where there's no sun some days, but you know. So to lock these, you just push them home and that's it. Oh, here's another little thing too. So the water fill points, so 1, 2, 3 water tanks, grey water tank. As you can see, I've already lost one of the rubber caps. These are a great idea for protecting it, but they should probably come up with some way of perhaps connecting a wire to them so you don't put them down and forget to put them back on. I've just put one of these on here now just to protect that from stones. There's another hot and cold water outlet there. And that's the Witty anti-theft system there, which is a wireless anti-theft system. That actually, if somebody moves the van, so it's got an alarm on it, and then it also locks the brakes on the van, so if somebody tries to move the van, it'll lock the brakes and stop the van being able to be moved. But you know, I think those sort of deterrents, they stop honest thieves. I think if somebody wants the van, they'll get it. I've put a bit of rubber on top of the toolbox here because the toolbox itself is this shiny, very slippery finish. So if I put firewood up on that, it would slide around and do all sorts of damage. So I just popped a bit of rubber matting that I've got from Bunnings up there, and that'll stop that moving around. This front box, composite material too. You can see not very thick but very light. This is the diesel heater for the diesel tank for the diesel heater. I normally just put the silage hose in there, room there for a jerry can. I'll just keep the hoses in this one, and that's the blocks that we're using because the van's so high off the ground. You do need something underneath the jack to get it up off the ground, and that's like they're all 6 individual blocks that come apart, so you can use that to help level the van. And I think that's about it for the outside, so I'll get Wendy to give you a bit of a run around on the inside when she gets a chance.
Hi everyone, I'm Wendy and this is our van. So this is the new Sojourn, and we picked it up just a little over a week ago. Really loving it. I just thought I'd give you a look around and just maybe explain, because we've had 3 vans before, the difference between this one and the other 2. So the other 2 were a Kokoda and a JB van. Now they were great internally, very similar to this, but the quality is 100% different. This is much thicker. Things I'll point out to you hopefully help you. So if you're thinking about buying a van, you can weigh up the differences for yourself. So this is the bedroom, as you can see. Pretty standard, looks just like any of the other vans. The bed's higher. The reason the bed is higher is because beside it, and I'll show you quickly, there's a foot locker. So the foot locker is handy because we can put shoes and socks and things like that in it. It also gives you a bit more room, so we can stand up on it and my head does not hit the roof. So in the previous van that we had, this area was much more narrow. I found it really hard on my knees. If you suffer with knee problems or anything, it was a small space to get into. You would find yourself having to shimmy off the bed and shimmy on. You couldn't get down by the side, which is what we do now. So it gives you more space. The cupboards are good. These cupboards here, you can fit proper hangers in them. The others I had to turn sideways and try to close the door so I could get in. You've got solid shelves, not thin little plyboard things. These are good solid shelves. They're strong. So we've got one up the top. I've chosen to use it as hanging space, so you've got hanging space. It's not long enough to put anything underneath, but I do put it beside like Jim's computer, that sort of thing. So there's room. If you have the shelves, you can't fit anything hanging in there. It doesn't work, and there's really no other place to hang anything. There's a little cubby hole at the side. It's not very big, but it's big enough to stick a mobile phone and charge it. There's a charging space in there too, so that's really good. Above, a lot of people will stick their linen up here. I've decided to put the pants and shorts. I don't put the linen in there for the simple reason that usually I wash the sheets and the blankets, hang them on the line, put them back on the bed straight away. I do keep a spare set and I keep it under the bed because like I don't use it often, so why have it? I'd rather have things I use frequently there. Your normal little lights, they swivel, they're very good. So it's the same on both sides. The windows are much larger, so you've got a lot more space, easy to open. The others that we had would fling up, so they were on the spring, and that can be really annoying because they're hard to catch. Large windows, they click in and out. There's a space on here, so you can have it so when you close the window, there's a gap. The gap is so that you can let air in. So like if you want to go out for the day but you don't want to close the caravan completely, you can do that and still have a little bit of air coming in. You also have the full spring, so it goes up and down easily and does the trick. Now we come to the kitchen. Okay, so this is the kitchen area. It's large and it's the same setup as most kitchens, with the exception that you'll find we've got, I'll go through this first. Alright, so basically large window again, very handy, little shelf, little point in here for charging. Table goes up and down, big cupboards. Cupboards are cupboards. One thing you need to know if you're traveling is you might think that because you're traveling on flat roads, stuff isn't going to move around, but it does, because the second you pull over to the side of the road, it's usually on an angle. What happens is everything moves to one side, moves back again, so stuff in your fridge everywhere. So I use containers and I try to fill the cupboard as much as possible so stuff doesn't move around. I also bought this plastic, which is see-through. I've cut them and put them in the shelves. It stops stuff from sliding very much as well, and it's really good and it's clear. It also makes it easier to clean, because I find that cans tend to scratch the cupboard and leave this gray stain on everything, which is really not very nice and hard to clean, and actually you can't clean it most of the time. So you've got the two cupboards here. Once again, I fill it with as much as I can. If I can't fill one cupboard, two cupboards, I'll push it all into one, even if it's cram-packed. Because there's nothing worse than you pull it out and it falls down. You got to watch when you open these cupboards, things can fall down and they can damage your table. So make sure you don't put any glass in there. If you do, put your glasses in boxes. That'll save part of the problem. This is shifted over a bit because Jimmy was doing some work, but this moves sideways. You can pull it out, turn it around, however you like, so, and move it back and forth. It also goes up and down. Now we've got a section where when we turn this and we lower it, there's a little foot pedal, so you step on it and you lower it. Oop. Push it over until I get it in the right place. It goes right now. Okay, so I've got some PowerPoints under there too. That's really handy. Now there's another mat just like this that fits here, which turns this into a nice little single bed for me. So I've got a few grandchildren, and every once in a while you might have one with you. So it's good to have. We really enjoy it. This comes up just like all the others. So if you had a van before, it's pretty similar. Little pockets on the side. This side here, if you have a look, we've got the kitchen. So I keep one of these on the bench now. Normally I would use a drying mat, but I find it gets wet. I have to hang it on the line, wait for it to dry before I use it again. And this is handy, it protects the bench top. It's clear so you don't notice it so much. I can wash the dishes, dry the dishes, give this a wipe, and it's ready to go again. If I'm doing a lot of dishes, then yes, I'll grab the drying mat and I'll use that. Plenty of drawer space, big pot drawer here, keep my pots in, and just bits and pieces. Cupboard, so in here we can keep that when I'm doing the dishes, all my cleaning products. Now you don't use a lot of cleaning products, they say just soap and water here, but you got your dishwashing liquid. I did buy this. I found that the stone, even if I wiped it with a bit of just soapy water, wasn't getting some of the stains that can come from like coffee and tea and that, anything that spills on it. And if you don't wipe it up quickly, it does stain. So I used a little bit of this and that does the trick. But I still like this to protect my benches. So when nobody's around and I'm not doing videos and stuff like that, I keep these on my benches because I love my husband, but my husband will cook and clean, and I love that he does it, but tidiest person when it comes to that. He's good at cleanup though, but yeah, I don't like to take any chances. It's my new kitchen. Love the tapware, it's beautiful. The sink is a nice deep sink. So you've got the plug in it. Little catch, which is fantastic, stops all the stuff from going in. So we've got the stove, hot plate. Now originally we had ordered, it was half induction, half gas, and unfortunately they ran out of stock for this. So as a result, we ended up with just the gas, and I don't mind it now that I've got it, I'm used to it. We do have induction hot plates, and when you think about it, they're evolving all the time, so the qualities change, so I can just update my induction hot plates whenever I like. I do have, so what happened was we decided before we were getting the van, because we were getting induction, we hadn't used it before, we would buy one to try it out. So we bought one and tried it, and it was quite good. Then we went to a caravan and camping show and saw another one, which was different again, and geez, it's amazing because it's got so many different settings that you put it on. It's easier to adjust the cooking times and everything. The induction hot plate that they gave us is good, but it's much harder to control. It's very basic, so I'm really loving the one that we bought, so we'll use both. And we've got a spare, which eventually will probably end up as a birthday or Christmas present for some member of the family. Cupboards up top. So I buy these containers. So we've got these. They're either from BW or Bunnings, and they're fantastic. Stop stuff from moving around. So here are my glasses. Notice I keep the glasses in the box, and I use one glass at a time. I've done the same thing with mugs. Coffee mugs are notorious for the handles banging together, and you end up with handleless coffee mugs if they don't break. I've already bought one, broken one of these. Now that's because I had to sit it up here, and even though I had a mat, when I opened the cupboard, this is a stone bench top, it just fell and smashed everywhere. So now it's not going to fall anywhere because it's in a container. So taking my advice to do this. This is a handy cupboard. Kids gave us these beautiful smug appliances, so I put them in here, loving them. I use them. Now I can use them on grid or off grid, so we just turn the 240 on and it works fine, and we can do that as long as we've got plenty of sun. But there's a power point in there if we need it. I keep the tea towels in between, stop them from smashing together, which will keep them in better condition for as long as possible. And the television. So TV is a TV. Plenty of points for you to see here. And then we've got large drawers. So now normally this is where your oven would be. Now we don't have an oven. They took the oven out, which I'm glad, because the last one we had, we did plenty of corrugations, and what we found was the oven shook so much that it started falling apart. So now we just have the drawer, and the drawer is perfect size for my Thermomix. So I've got my Thermomix and all the things that go with the Thermomix in here. In this drawer here, now we don't have to go without an oven. We've actually bought one. So this is our oven. So it's a Russell Hobbs. We just bought that from Big W or Kmart or something. It's the perfect size. So it's not the smaller one, it's the bigger one. Made pizza in it the other day. Jim does hash browns in it. Just put the 240 on. While you're using it, turn the 240 off and let the sun get the power back up again. So it's fantastic. So it's a good size and fits in the drawer. So you can see you got plenty of drawer space. And then I've got my pot drawer. Not my pot drawer, sorry, my utensils drawer. Now this utensils drawer, I just bought this insert from Bunnings. Fits perfectly because one didn't come with the van. When it comes to cutlery though, they did provide a cutlery thing for your drawer, so that comes with it automatically. So that's pretty much here. We've got our microwave oven. The microwave oven works when you turn the 240 on, and you can do that. Use it wherever you like. It does suck a little bit of power. With any of these appliances that we have, if you want to get an idea of how much power it uses, we'll check with Jim, and what we'll do is we'll do a demonstration. So just get back to us. Let us know what you need. You need measurements on something. You know, we'll have a look at it for you if we can, and give you a better idea. So like if you're waiting for your van, or you've got a van and you don't know how to check yourself, we're happy to help you. So microwave is very handy. They've given, okay, so I bought the bowl myself, but they give you a bag for the dish. Now the dish, you take it out of the bag before you use it, believe it or not, but they've had to tell us that because apparently some people have made the mistake of turning the microwave on while the bag's still in there. Apparently it starts on fire, so don't do that. Then we have the pantry. So this is the pantry. It's a good size. I did not have a pantry when I had the Kokoda, but I had a pantry when I had the JB. Now the pantry in the JB was only about that wide, so that made it very difficult if you ever had to clean in it. It had a rack that came out. That was handy. So I had these containers here. In the racks, so that's as wide as the rack was. So now it's a much better size. I bought these containers. Once again, they're from Kmart, but very handy. I found that when we were traveling, especially on the corrugations, what would happen was the containers, without the containers, things would fall over or topple down, and you find them down the bottom. These containers are a good size, so that's 5 bottles of water there. Now I'm just trying to find stuff to put in them at the moment because we've only had the van for a week. So right now water is what we need, not because we have 3 water tanks, but because sometimes I prefer to keep the water tanks to use for washing the dishes and washing ourselves, so that we can stay places longer. So it's handy to have. And plus at night it's nice to have a bottle beside you while you're having a drink. So we filled the pantry. It's good. There's space down the bottom. So down the bottom's where I stick all of those annoying things that get mushed up in drawers. It's just easier to have them here. The cutting board just sits there. I pull it out when I'm not traveling, but that's a good size. The fridge is magnificent. So look how huge this freezer is. It's a great size and it works. We had Dometic fridges before, and I'm sorry, but they're shit. They just do not work very well. This is a good size. Got plenty of food, so we're staying about 4 days here, 5 days, but this would probably last us a whole week, what's in there. So that's the freezer, and there's the fridge. Once again, containers. Got things from tumbling out. Because once you stop and you go on a hill, the van will lead this way towards the gutter. What happens is everything pushes against the door and your door can fly open. So we don't usually have that trouble with this, but you could have it. I did have it with the pneumatic, where I'd come in and I'd find food all over the floor and the freezer would open. It was just horrible, but this has been fantastic. So this is the bathroom. All right, now this is probably the same size that the Kokoda was, but not as many cupboards. As the Kokoda didn't have as many cupboards as this does. Also the JB, this was wider because it was a wider ensuite, so there was a cupboard to the side, so you had more elbow room here. But to be honest, the shower was small. Now this shower is huge, and this is where you probably need more space. We've got a good fan up here. This fan is fantastic. You've got a light on it. It turns on. You can turn it on. You can set it so that it's got a rain sensor. You put the rain sensor on, and if it rains, it will close automatically. Now, we have another fan over there, which is the same, with the exception that doesn't have a rain sensor, so you have to remember to close it all the time. Why would you put a rain sensor in here? Because you're more likely to leave this open thinking you're safe because you got the shower. But the problem is, if it rains and the rain sensor doesn't come on and you have the plug in the shower and it's raining really hard, you could flood. Alright, so in here I've got probably too much because we've come from another van and we've bought some stuff and we just got way too much in here. So we're getting through. So beautiful. It's great. Washing machine. I am absolutely loving it. I wasn't sure how I was going to go with what do you call it, front door or front loader washing machine, because I've never had one before. They always scared me, but this is fantastic, and it fits more than I expected it to, and it runs really well. We've got a composting toilet. Now, we used, in the previous vans, we had the chemical toilet. It was good because we had a toilet, and we used to just insist on only doing number ones in it because nobody wanted to clean what had come out of a number two. And that we would have to do every couple of days, 2 to 3 days. So we'd have to find a place to tip the chemicals and the waste. Here, if you've never had one of these before, the wee goes into this. So basically, you can get a wee bottle. So Jimmy prefers standing, because if you're a male and you're using this, you have to sit down. So he's bought one of these from the chemist. The discount chemist sells these, and they're fantastic. So in the middle of the night, that's when he uses it, because he can go out. So he doesn't want to go outside. Sometimes there's frogs and snakes and things. So basically, this could, on my own, would probably take me, a week to fill. But you can empty it. It's as simple as pouring it on a tree. Or if you're at a caravan park, you'd put it in their disposal place. The number twos comes into this section where you just wind this and that rotates it, so there's peat in there. So Big Oz Caravans have done a little rundown on the compost toilet. I highly suggest you watch their YouTube and have a look at it, because it's really explains it well. There's no smell at all. Even though there's stuff in there, it goes through that hose and is ducted out. So it's fantastic. Even when you're cleaning, apparently there's no smell. Plenty of beautiful sink, nice and wide, so it doesn't splash everywhere like some of the small sinks you get. You've got a couple of cupboards here, so I keep everything to do with the toilet here, and just bits and pieces there. Under here there is a cabinet, which I'll get Jimmy to go through because he can explain it better. Now, my broom and my mop I tend to keep in the shower when we're traveling. It just stops them from running around everywhere. Great space, so everything personal is under here that we use regularly. My washing powders, however, don't fit in this cupboard, so they stay here, but they're out of the way. under here. This is another cupboard Jimmy will tell you about. Has to do with some switches that you have to change every once in a while. Above we have more cupboards, so place for the towels. They provided the hooks, but we bought the hanging hook, which I can't remember the name of it, Jim will tell you, for the towels, and they just suck right onto the wall, so it's a lot easier. We've done the same with this, so we got those from Bunnings. They're fantastic. Once again, I find little containers are good, and I'll probably buy more, even though I still have some. The mats I bought, excuse all the feet prints on them at the moment, but they're doing their job, because when you come in and out, you tend to bring stuff. Now this mat, somebody asked me about it. I got it from Bunnings. It comes already in a roll. I've seen them where you can cut them to the length that you want, but this is just the perfect length. If it comes out any further, you would see basically that if I brought it to this location here, it would interfere with the door for the cupboard. So you really only want that big. You could put one coming here in this direction if you want a smaller mat. I just find it's good. You pick them up and you shake them and give it a big sweep and back again. Stops big messes, especially when you're traveling in the outback and you get to where the dirt is really red. It can be horrible, and it makes a nasty mess, and I don't like it. So I hope, oh sorry, we've got these lights here. I don't know if you can see them. Well, they turn on, so we use the red arc system, but I'm going to let Jimmy tell you about that. Red arc, we can run the air conditioner, run the fans, run the lights, and it can be daunting at first, because you sort of think, oh, I don't really like computers, but it's not really. It's really easy to use. I reckon within a week of using it, you'll be quite capable. I found it easy, and I don't like learning new things, so that's really good. So I hope you found this informative. I don't know, I'm not really good with this sort of stuff. If you like and subscribe sort of thing, I suppose Jim controls all of that, and he'll see all your messages. So if we can help you in any way, please let us know. But if you ask me how much I love this van, I love it 100% more than any van that we've ever had. It tows smoothly, it's comfortable, and it's like home on wheels. And I'm looking forward to all the places it's going to take me. So have a great adventure, guys, when you get yours, if you haven't got one already. Yeah, bye for now.
Alright, so I apparently had a bit of a issue with the settings on the camera the other day, and a lot of the images came out very dark, so I think I've fixed that now, so hopefully it will solve the problem. So a couple of things inside the van I wanted to show you. Wendy did you a little bit of a run through on what she likes about it, so a couple of things that I'll show you from just a technical point of view. So that whirring sound that you can hear, that's the inverter humming away under the fridge. In this lower cabinet in the bathroom is the gas hot water service, so that's a True McGrath gas hot water service. This switch here, if you're plugged into mains, turning that switch on bypasses the gas, so it becomes an electric hot water service instead of a gas hot water service. So if you're plugged in, your might as well be running on electricity. So you just got to remember to turn that on and off as you connect and disconnect to mains. Talking about mains, so under the seat there's another switch which you need to know about. So the little white button there, or white switch that you can see there, changes it from inverter to main. So we're currently running on the inverter. If you plug into 240, you need to switch that over to mains, and again remember to switch it back to inverter once you disconnect. There's a couple of more breaker switches in there. These are the 3 red arc 200 amp lithium batteries. They're expensive units, they're about $3 grand each, so do your best not to damage them. So that's just a couple of things about the electrical side of it. I'll give you a little bit of a run through on the red arc control panel. Now, I'm no expert on it, so this is just what I've learnt whilst we've been using the van. So basically you can control most things from here. So that's the lights, so you see that's the main lights on and off. That's the smaller roof lights, which are these ones here. So one thing I have learned about it is that if you turn it on or off here, it'll remain as how you had it last time. So here, if I turn it on, and then if I turn it off here, it'll turn it off there, and then if I turn it on here, it'll come back on. So it's like a it's got like a memory setting on it. So if you operate anything from the red arc system, it'll go back to the way it was when you turned it off last time. So if you double click this bottom switch, that shuts everything off. So now all these switches are locked, they don't do anything. So that's turned everything bar the fridge off. Right, so, and the inverter's still on. So I'm going to turn that inverter off actually, because I don't need it at the moment. Oh, actually, while we're here looking at that inverter, so I'll go back up. So I go across here. So the inverter, it's actually just turned itself off. That's because I was running it to charge the laptop computer. So the laptop's obviously just finished charging. So that's gone dormant. So therefore the inverter's gone dormant. So now you can see that these there's 0.7 amps coming back into the battery. Right, so if I go back and turn that inverter off, so I go back, takes a while to get used to which buttons to push, and then go back here again. So you can see now I've turned that inverter off, so that's coming into the battery 5.1 amps, coming out of the battery 2.7 amps, so that's a gain of 2.5 amps per hour. You can see it's really overcast today. I'll just poke out the window here. So you can see it's just finished raining, really overcast, so not a lot of solar, but that's still putting in 38 watts or 102 watts an hour back into the battery. So we dropped down to 66%. So again, last night we used the electric toaster oven, we used the induction cooktop, had the TV running for probably 4 hours, and I've been working on the computer for a couple of hours this morning. So we've been giving it a bit of a hiding this morning. It's come down to 66%, and then that'll come back up. I would say overcast today, it'll probably only come up to maybe 82%. On a sunny day, it'll get back up to 100% in sort of 8 hours. So like I said, the unit, so that'll stay the way that you've left it. All right, so see now the lights won't come on or off. I'll double click that again now, brings it back to life. All right, and then control the lights. So that's the bulkhead lights, which are quite bright. Wendy likes to use those when she's cooking and cleaning. And then this is the small lights, so you can have one or both of those on. They also have a little blue light setting, which is just enough to sort of see yourself walking around and deters the bugs a little bit. Stops you injecting yourself too, apparently. So roof hatch we can open now because it stopped raining. So the roof hatch in this has a reverse fan, so you can use it to extract or bring in air. I've just got it running slow at the moment, extracting air. You can turn that up quite high if you're cooking in here. There's no actual range hood in these vans, so this is an exhaust fan if you're cooking as well. So I'll turn that back down again. I'll also turn that right back down, and then you can just reverse what direction it's going through there. So this hatch doesn't have a rain sensor on it, but it's significantly bigger than the opening in the roof. So I think even in a heavy downpour, I don't think you're going to get any rain in there. I'll turn those off, we don't need them. Right, fire extinguisher just above the door. So one thing I might send a message to Zone Service about is changing one of these USB 12 volt outlets to just a cigarette lighter type outlet, because there's no cigarette type lighter outlet inside the van. So there's one, two, there's one each side of the bed, so that's 4, and another one here. So there's 5 of these USB type outlets, but there's no USB-C outlet inside the van. So my new iPad and iPhone both need a USB-C outlet, so I can either charge it outside, because there is one outlet there, or there's one in the tunnel boot, or other than that you've got to turn your inverter on to charge your phones, which is sort of draining the battery unnecessarily, because the inverter uses a lot more power than charging your phone takes. So this point here is a standard cigarette lighter outlet, and then that's just one of those normal USB-C outlets. So I think probably 1 or 2 of those inside the van would be a good option. So I'll see if Zone can change at least one of those for us when we do the first service. So one more thing, I can't remember whether I showed you this before or not. So this is the plumbing cabinet basically. So you've got a switch for each of your tanks, a switch for the washing machine. So we made the mistake first time we used the washing machine, we didn't turn the washing machine switch over to allow water to flow through, so it created an airlock. Took us a while to get the airlock back out of all the water lines, but we got it out eventually. I normally fill the tanks 1, 2, 3 and empty them 3, 2, 1, because then that keeps the weight forward as much as possible on the van. So I've just emptied tank 2, or tank 1, the 3, sorry, there's a little bit of water left in it, so I've switched tank 2 on, and then once that's drained I'll switch them off and put tank 1 on. But yeah, that's simple enough to operate. There's a inline water filter here, which you should change every 6 months or so, unless you're sort of getting a lot of dirty water, then change them more often. We also use an inline filter to fill the water tanks as well. One thing while we're in the ensuite, when you went to use a hairdryer, and she goes, oh, there's no power point in the ensuite, but it is. It's just not obvious. It's next door to the washing machine. So she was very happy once she discovered there was a power point in there. Another ceiling fan in there. This one has a rain sensor on it, so if you get a downpour, it'll close that hatch automatically. When we're travelling, we close the plug on the drain just to stop any dust coming back up the plumbing pipe. If you leave your grey water bypass valve open while you're travelling on dirt roads, it will come up there. So just one more thing about the van too. I think in the video I did last week I said the weight on the van was 2,600 kilos. With the water tanks full, that's not correct. That's the dry weight of the van before you put any options on. So with the options we put on, the dry weight of the van is 2790, and then 255 litres of water, so therefore 255 kilos of water. I think I've sort of covered most of it now, but if you've got any questions about the van or something that I didn't cover or didn't cover clearly enough, let me know. Or just another clarification, I measured that table for somebody the other day, but I had sort of one hand with the tape, one hand with the camera, and measured again properly when I had free hands. It's actually, width is 635 mil and length is 1610 mil.